All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. So this is part one of my series, Building Tembo. So previously we were working on a clothing design company. We're still going to be working on that perpetually in the future, just obviously not as much. I feel like a kind of pivotal point in my life has come up where I've had the opportunity to build an app for my mom for her business. And so I got to take advantage of every opportunity that comes my way because I'm unemployed. Um, but genuinely, I do believe that this opportunity has quite a lot of potential, and I kind of wanted to talk about it for a bit. And I'm going to try to keep recording these to sort of at least keep documentation for the building process because I don't know, this is kind of a weird thing. I do believe it has like pretty much a 100% chance of success, which is crazy to say, but we're basically replicating a product that already exists and we're just making it faster and better. And faster is like on the client side. So when you're like loading up a page, it's a web app. So first of all, that's kind of the context you need there. So yeah, I've officially become a SaaS bro, as they call it in this industry. That's kind of the slang for us. But yeah, so I've been vibe coding a lot recently, pretty much every day for the past 2 weeks or so. It's not even been 2 weeks yet, but I've made pretty significant progress. So the MVP is pretty much done at this point. And yeah, I kind of wanted to share some of my insights into the AI world and sort of how it's developing. So first of all, I do believe, I'm just gonna like say this pretty strongly. I believe the software engineering industry is pretty much going to be officially cooked by 2027 at latest, like the end of 2027. Um, because one thing I've been able to do with vibe coding is, I have a background in software engineering, first of all, so I've kind of transitioned from software, like official engineering to vibe coding. And I can pretty confidently say that the vibe coding tool itself, which I use Claude Opus 4.5, and I'm sure by the time all this stuff has popped off, there will be even better versions of Claude, which is kind of like mind-boggling, kind of bonkers to me. Um, I feel like I've been able to operate at the level of not like even just a senior engineer, but quite literally like multiple teams. And that's it depends on like where you're listening to this from, but for some people that's very scary. For some people that's I guess exciting. There's obviously both sides to this. I think if you have access to the tools, it's obviously very exciting and you know what to build, then it's very exciting. But if you're sort of on the other end of this, if your job's about to get replaced, it can be a bit scary. And understandably, right? Because I think a lot of software engineering in general will be automated, like I said, by the end of 2027. This is a strong statement to make, but I don't feel like it's worth trying to at least go into the industry. I did, so I'll quick background. I did study computer science in college. I don't necessarily regret it. If you're going to school and you want to study computer science, I'm not going to like advise you against that. I think it's a good way to train your brain how to think if you are planning on spending like a reasonable amount of money. Hopefully by 2027, which this is not going to happen, but hopefully by then they'll actually have like decreased how much it costs to go to college because right now it's absurdly expensive. It probably still will be in the future. So you want to sort of calculate that in your decision on whether or not you should uh, pretty much, I would say, even study computer science, right? Like, if you're not confident that you're going to be able to make stuff in the future, if you're not really like a passionate developer, you might not want to be studying computer science. Well, like again, I'm biased, so I don't really know what advice to give you. I think it was good for me. If you like building stuff, it's probably good for you. But like I said, I, I feel like I'm operating at the level of, I think I may have said a team, but quite honestly, I feel like I'm operating at the level of multiple teams together. Because I have the agent, I basically have a testing framework that the agent built very, very quickly to test my database. So something about my app is it needs to be very secure. So I need a lot of certifications in the future. So I'll need like SOC 2, SOC 1, ISO, it's like 27,000 or something. But all of these are basically just to make sure that client data is locked down and secret, so you can't like access other people's data. Because if that were to happen, this would be a pretty critical failure on my app's part. Which like this does happen in the real world, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it would be pretty bad, right? Like obviously it can happen. You can always pivot and get over this stuff, but yeah, it would be really bad in the industry that I'm trying to pursue this in. Um, so yeah, I have basically my security testing team on one end. I have the developer team on the other end, which is like front end, and then I have the back end team on the other end. And then all of these things coordinate together through me as the individual. So I'm kind of like the, I guess, like CEO in this sense. Like I just kind of orchestrate everything together. And yeah, it's pretty incredible, I would say, what I've been able to do in the past 2 weeks. I've pretty much gotten stuff set up from scratch all the way until MVP within like 14 days. I think it's been less than 14 days at this point. I think it's probably been like 12. But the front end looks really good, and I'm probably gonna revise it one more time. I'm just gonna like add the context that I want it to use, like Tailwind CSS. Like it already has been using Tailwind CSS, but I mean like the more specific components that they have on their website, like specifically within the Plus version. Um, but yeah, like I said, I can just move super fast because I don't need approval from anybody. I know exactly what I need to plan. I don't need any project managers because Claude is also the project manager. And so since I'm trying to orchestrate this with my brother, sometimes if he ever like has time, so he's still working a full-time job. If he ever has time to work on it, what we did was we built like, well, he built the MVP like, or I built the original MVP and then he kind of like revised it and then just had a more like detailed list that we could go down. And then from the MVP, what you can do is you can prompt Claude. So now Claude is acting as the project manager in this context across like all the three teams. Is I can have it schedule the things that need to be completed in order from start to finish. And so what it can do, if you study computer science, see this is like one of the advantages. You know what a DAG is, directed acyclic graph. So they use this a lot in scheduling, specifically within like computer processes, but you can use it like anything in the world. It's Yeah, it's used for scheduling. So basically, if there's a task that doesn't have any other dependencies on it, so like let's say you're trying to like do something and someone's like blocking you for that like specific task, then you can't operate on that task until you're unblocked from like the previous task. So that's not a like great real world example, but yeah, if you're curious, you can just like look up what a DAG is. Um, but the reason this speeds up the processes is because once we have the DAG set in stone as to like what blocks what in our app, we can basically look at like, hey, I'm working on this part of the DAG, and then he can go and look at like other specific nodes in the DAG that can be worked on that are like completely independent from what I'm working on. So we can have two different people working on the same project at the same time and not sort of step on each other's toes. And so, yeah, like I said, like AI is doing pretty much all of this, and not to be like a doomer, but like I don't know, I hope humanity can figure out how to recover from this. But it's gonna be pretty brutal for the industry in general. At least like that's kind of my insights here. And I don't know if I'm like speaking to any young people out there who are trying to go into the industry, I would highly suggest, my personal opinion, don't waste your time trying to apply to too many jobs because I think a lot of them, first of all, are BS jobs. And second of all, I think you're just wasting a lot of time sort of trying to prove yourself that you can get a job. And a lot of people put status in their job. And I think that's kind of an outdated way of thinking, in my personal opinion. I don't think you should, first of all, like value people based on, the occupation or the title that they have. Um, and second of all, like you have access to sort of like, I would say like the weirdest way to put it is like nuclear grade tools. So like honestly, I think some of these tools, I think in the past, if you were to like give Claude Opus to some like time traveler back in like 1960 or something, some dude like traveled back and like gave it to them. They'd probably like the government would definitely like shoot you first of all, and then they would restrict that software for a long time. I think the tools that we have now are just like so industrial grade and so accessible to the public that like it's kind of insane. I don't think people are going to realize this until probably like 5 or 10 years down the line. And there's obviously going to be like repercussions, but I don't know. We'll talk about that in the future videos. I do want to get back to work on this project, so I'm going to try to be uploading these every day, even though I said that last time. But yeah, these are going to be like my kind of devlogs for the process. I do think this is going to work out. So I hope you guys stick around. And yeah, I hope you guys join me for the ride because it's going to be pretty exciting. All right. Anyway, peace out. Hope you guys have a great day. Hope you guys all take care. Thanks.